For years, talking to plants was considered eccentric at best and downright quirky at worst. Yet for the people who do it, it's neither strange nor whimsical. It's meaningful, deliberate, and deeply revealing of psychological patterns that run beneath the surface. So why do some people talk to their plants? And why does it seem to occur more frequently in certain personality types, or in those who spend more time nurturing small living things? At first glance, it might seem like a harmless habit, or a mild form of procrastination disguised as care. But a closer look suggests it's far more than that. The act of speaking to plants touches on personality traits, emotional tendencies, and subconscious coping strategies. First, it's important to understand the context. Humans are social creatures, wired to communicate with one another. Language evolved to share information, negotiate relationships, and coordinate group activity. But when someone turns that innate social energy toward a plant, it may initially appear inefficient. After all, the plant doesn't respond, or does it? Here's where psychology starts to make sense of the behavior. Speaking to a plant fulfills several subtle, overlapping needs. 1. It satisfies the human desire for connection. Even if that connection is one-sided, it stimulates the social and cognitive areas of the brain. These areas are the same regions activated when interacting with another person, listening, interpreting, empathizing, and responding, even if the listener is chlorophyll-filled and immobile. 2. Talking to plants offers a safe space for emotional expression. Unlike relationships with people, interactions with plants carry minimal risk. They won't judge, argue, or misunderstand. They simply exist, quietly absorbing sound waves and occasional vibrations, silently rewarding attention without retaliation. This low-risk environment can be particularly appealing for individuals navigating stress, uncertainty, or social pressure. It's a form of subtle, self-soothing, a practice that can stabilize mood without demanding complex interpersonal negotiation. The plants make the perfect roommates. They listen, they never interrupt, and they won't steal your snacks. But beyond the lighthearted observation, there's a real cognitive effect. Research in environmental psychology suggests that nurturing living things, whether pets, plants, or even aquariums, can reduce stress, improve concentration, and promote a sense of agency. People reinforce that care, subtly strengthening the bond between action and positive emotional feedback. Personality also plays a major role. People who talk to plants often score higher in traits such as openness to experience, introspection, and conscientiousness. Openness encourages imagination and curiosity, the ability to anthropomorphize plants or treat them as companions without feeling foolish. Introspection allows individuals to observe their own emotions and project nurturing behaviors outward. Conscientiousness supports consistency in plant care, creating routines that foster both growth in the plant and stability in the person's life. Consider the common behavior of naming plants, talking to them by name, or celebrating milestones like first new leaf. It's easy to laugh at these rituals, but they highlight a desire for recognition, connection, and progress. In a world where human attention is fragmented and feedback is often delayed or critical, plants provide immediate, uncritical acknowledgement. You survived another week is validation delivered quietly, reliably, and without judgment, a small but meaningful reinforcement. This behavior also intersects with self-reflection and creativity. Talking to plants forces moments of pause. You articulate your thoughts, externalize emotions, and engage in what psychologists call symbolic rehearsal. By vocalizing intentions or worries, even to a ficus, people can mentally process ideas more clearly. It's an indirect way of clarifying goals, venting frustrations, or practicing patience, functions that are crucial in both personal and professional life. Furthermore, talking to plants signals something about internal life rhythm. People who engage in this habit often have routines, watering at the same time, adjusting sunlight, checking soil moisture. These repeated actions, paired with speech, reinforce discipline and attention. Psychologically, it's a way of structuring time, marking progress, and maintaining control over a small, predictable system in a world where unpredictability is common. Finally, there's the subtle identity component. Those who talk to plants often adopt a self-concept as someone nurturing, patient, and attuned to life, even if only symbolically. The habit communicates values quietly, without needing verbal explanation. It's self-expression through care, a form of personality signaling that is both private and visible. In other words, the plant becomes a mirror, reflecting traits the person wants to cultivate or at least acknowledge in themselves. So the next time you see someone whispering encouragement to a philodendron, it's worth pausing, not to judge, but to observe. This simple, silent behavior reveals curiosity, empathy, mindfulness, and self-awareness. It's a quiet ritual that merges biology, psychology, and identity into a single, small, daily act. And while the plant may not answer back, the person walking away is subtly changed, moment by moment, leaf by leaf. While it may look like casual care, research and observation suggest that certain traits make people more likely to engage in this behavior. By examining personality, emotional intelligence, and daily habits, we can understand why plant conversation is more common than it seems. First, personality traits play a central role. People who speak to their plants often score higher on openness to experience. This trait encompasses curiosity, imagination, and a willingness to explore ideas beyond the literal. Someone high in openness may be more comfortable anthropomorphizing plants, imagining them as companions or even silent advisors. This isn't childish, it's a natural extension of creative thinking. Open individuals tend to see the world as full of subtle patterns and interactions, making the slow, quiet responses of plants psychologically engaging. Introversion is another common trait. Introverts typically recharge through internal reflection, rather than external social interaction. For them, talking to a plant provides a safe outlet for verbal expression. The plant does not respond with judgment, interruption, or criticism. This creates a private, predictable space where ideas, emotions, and observations can be articulated freely. In essence, plants become conversational mirrors for introverts, allowing thoughts to flow without social friction. Conscientiousness is equally relevant. People who talk to their plants regularly are often highly attentive and organized in the care they provide. Daily watering, adjusting lighting, pruning leaves, these routines reflect self-discipline and reliability. From a psychological perspective, conscientious individuals derive satisfaction from maintaining consistency. Plant care, paired with conversation, is a microcosm of structured responsibility. The plant grows, the caretaker experiences competence, predictability, and accomplishment. Emotional intelligence plays a significant role too. Those who speak to plants often demonstrate heightened empathy and self-awareness. While plants cannot verbalize emotions, they respond to care and environmental adjustments in visible ways. Observing and responding to these subtle cues activates the brain's empathy networks. Over time, caretakers become more attuned to subtle patterns in their surroundings and in themselves. Speaking to plants reinforces attention, observation, and emotional attunement in ways that extend beyond horticulture. This connection is particularly evident in how people handle plant struggles. When leaves wilt or stems droop, individuals with high emotional intelligence respond with observation and adjustment rather than frustration. They experiment with light, water, and placement, reflecting a flexible, problem-solving mindset. Psychologically, this process mirrors adaptive emotional regulation, noticing a problem, analyzing causes, taking measured action, and learning from outcomes. Talking to plants may appear whimsical on the surface, but beneath it lies a subtle layer of subconscious symbolism and social signaling. People who engage in this behavior aren't just nurturing greenery, they are participating in a quiet psychological ritual that mirrors values, identity, and coping strategies. One of the most striking aspects is symbolic representation of growth. Plants, by their nature, are visible markers of development. Leaves emerge, stems strengthen, flowers bloom. Speaking to a plant acknowledges and reinforces that growth. Psychologically, this mirrors self-perception. People who talk to plants often see themselves as cultivators of life, patience, and attention. Even if the growth is small, the act of nurturing reinforces internal beliefs about capability and consistency. Closely tied to growth is the theme of stability in an unpredictable world. Millennials and younger generations particularly live in environments where external stability is scarce. Jobs fluctuate, housing may be temporary, and social connections are fluid. Plants offer a predictable, manageable system, respond correctly, and growth occurs. This stability, paired with verbal interaction, subtly communicates to the subconscious that effort matters, that the world can be influenced in small, meaningful ways, and that one is competent in fostering life. The act of talking to plants also serves as emotional rehearsal. By verbalizing encouragement, concern, or reflection, individuals are practicing the articulation of thoughts and feelings. Plants provide a judgment-free zone for this rehearsal. Psychologically, this may enhance emotional processing, self-regulation, and clarity in communication. In other words, plants function as safe mirrors for internal dialogue, allowing people to rehearse empathy, patience, and even gratitude. There is a subtle social signaling component as well. People who talk to plants often project an image of mindfulness, care, and attention to life. Unlike material possessions which can communicate wealth or status, or digital achievements which signal social visibility, plants signal values quietly. Patience, responsibility, and nurturing tendencies are communicated implicitly through consistent care and attention. Observers may recognize this, consciously or unconsciously, reinforcing social identity without explicit statements. Another layer is creative and reflective thinking. Many who speak to plants report that verbalizing thoughts, even to a non-responsive audience, stimulates clarity and insight. This aligns with cognitive psychology findings. Speaking aloud helps externalize abstract thoughts, making them easier to analyze and understand. Plants thus become interactive tools for reflection, subtly facilitating problem-solving, planning, and self-observation. Symbolism extends to life cycles and temporality. Plants live through seasons, grow and die, thrive and falter. For someone speaking to plants, these rhythms mirror human experiences of change, patience, and adaptation. By observing and vocalizing care for these cycles, individuals internalize acceptance of impermanence and fluctuation, lessons that are psychologically important in navigating relationships, work, and personal goals. People often acknowledge the absurdity of speaking to a fern, yet continue the practice. This reflects comfort with introspection and tolerance for unconventional behaviors that align with personal values. There's a subtle psychological lesson here. One can engage meaningfully with the world, nurture life, and develop personal skills without needing external validation. Interestingly, talking to plants also functions as a low-stakes rehearsal for caregiving and relational skills. While plants do not respond socially, they do provide feedback through growth or decline. Learning to respond adaptively to these cues strengthens patterns of attention, patience, and responsiveness that can later be applied to human interactions. In essence, plants act as practice arenas for social-emotional competence. Finally, these interactions foster a sense of internal coherence and identity integration. People who talk to their plants often see themselves as compassionate, mindful, and capable of maintaining small, meaningful routines. By reinforcing these traits repeatedly, verbal interaction with plants becomes a ritualized form of identity affirmation. The plant reflects the person back to themselves, quietly, consistently, and without judgment. In conclusion, talking to plants is far more than an eccentric habit. It combines subconscious symbolism, emotional rehearsal, creative reflection, and social signaling. It reinforces identity traits, nurtures emotional intelligence, and provides continuity in unstable contexts. Through verbal engagement with living organisms that respond indirectly, people communicate with themselves, cultivate patience, and enact values they wish to embody. The practice is subtle, adaptive, and psychologically revealing. So next time you see someone whispering encouragement to a pothos or thanking a fiddle leaf fig for surviving another week, recognize that it's more than a quirky ritual. It is a complex interplay of personality, emotional intelligence, subconscious symbolism, and adaptive behavior. A small but rich window into how humans find connection, meaning, and grace, even in the quietest corners of everyday life.